This tutorial is for Clue 7 of the Indivisible pattern by Johanna Huck, which is the Expression Fiber Arts 2024 Mystery Crochet-Along pattern. Okay, before I begin, I just wanted to kind of give you a general overview of how this particular square works. So I'm sorry I can't zoom out all the way, but hopefully you can see. When we begin, we're going to be working in the round, and so this entire square at the beginning is worked in the round, and kind of similar to the way that we worked Clue 2 in that we're going to be working in between stitches. Even when we're working the corners, we're going to be working in between the previous round's corner stitches all the way around. And so unlike Clue 3, which had a tendency to skew from the center toward the outside edge because we were working directly into stitches, because we're working in between the stitches, this is pretty typical granny square fashion. That's not going to happen. It's going to stay very straight because we're working in between the stitches. So we start in the center, work out, and then when we get to the end of row 8, we switch to from working in the round to working in rows, where we're only going to be working across two sides. We're going to work across and then turn the corner and work across another side, and then turn at the end of the round and work back across those two sides again. And we're going to work that way all the way out to the end. And so if you notice the picture at the beginning of the video, the square skews to this final corner. And so it looks more like a kite or some sort of a trapezoid than it does like a square, but it will block to a square very easily. So that's just kind of what we're working toward. The other thing I wanted to point out, sorry, before I put this away, is just that we are, with the exception of the single crochet rows, I think that's 9 and 10, and then again, let me see here, 15 and 16, and then 21 and 22. So with the exception of the single crochet rows, we are working basically sets of three double crochets in the majority of this pattern. There's going to be a couple of places where you're working 2 or 1, like in the ends after we switch to working flat, but most of this pattern is just sets of double crochets, 3 double crochets, worked in between the previous sets of 3 double crochets, and then in the corner we're working 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. So very, very simple, very straightforward, and once we get started, you're going to see very intuitive. So with your color 7 and whatever hook size, I ended up with an H to get gauge on this pattern. So, and gauge is really easy too. When you get to the end of round 4, you just measure across your piece. Simple. So with your color 7, you're going to make a magic ring, and into that magic ring you're going to chain 1, and this is just the setup, and then into the magic ring you're going to work a total of 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you work your single crochets loosely, it will be easier to work round 1. So once you get your 8 single crochets, I like to make sure that the outside edge or the top is on the outside edge for all of those, and then just pull the center closed. And then to finish up, you're just going to work a slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. And if you want, you can place a beginning of round marker. I found that it was more trouble than it was worth. We're going to be moving the beginning of round every time we start a new round. So your beginning of round marker is going to have to move constantly. If you're used to doing that because you like to move it up each time, then you can do that. So round 1, we're going to begin with our chainless starting double crochet, which if you need a refresher, you're gonna, with the loop on your hook pulled slightly taller, you're going to twist your hook towards your belly, towards your lap, towards your left hand, pinch that stitch on the hook, and then do that same twist, belly, lap, left hand, yarn over the hook and pull under, and you can let go of the part that you were holding and then go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we do the chainless starting double crochet at the beginning, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets into that same stitch. 1, 2. So because of the chainless starting double crochet counting, we have a total of 3 double crochets. Then we're going to work the repeat, which is chain 2, skip 1, so skip the next stitch, and then work 3 double crochets into the stitch after that. Oops, didn't get all the way through that stitch, hang on. Right. 1, 2, 3, and then we work that repeat again, chain 2, skip 1, that's the next stitch, and then 3 double crochets into the stitch after that. 1, 2, 3. That repeat again, chain 2, skip the next stitch, 3 double crochets into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then to finish out the round, we're going to chain 2, skip the last stitch, and then we're going to work a slip stitch into the chainless starting double crochet from the beginning of the round. And then to finish that out, we're going to slip stitch in each of the next 2 stitches. And finally slip stitch into that chain 2 space. And that ends round 1. So you got a nice little wheel with sets of 3 double crochets separated by 2 chain 2. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2. That is the end of round 1. Round 2, we begin with another chainless starting double crochet into that chain 2 space, and then we're going to work 2 double crochets in the same space, again for a total of 3, because the chainless starting double crochet counts as a double crochet. Then our repeat for this round is chain 2, work 3 double crochets into the chain 2 space that you were just working in. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip 3. So skip this cluster of 3 double crochets, and then work 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. That repeat again, chain 2, work 3 double crochets into the chain space you were just working in. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. Again, chain 2, 3 double crochets into the chain 2 space you were just working in. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3, 3 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. And then to finish out this round, we're going to work a chain 2, work 3 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space we were just working in. 1, 2, 3. Then work a slip stitch to the chainless starting double crochet from the beginning of the round. Slip stitch in each of the next 2 stitches. So we're slip stitching across that first set of double crochets. And then a final slip stitch in the chain 2 space. So now we've moved our beginning of round from what started here to what's now going to start here. So from here to there. And that is the end of round 2. Okay, so before I begin round 3, I'm going to pull my notes up here for you for a second. And I just want you to look at the pattern for a second. It's got this asterisk, 3 double crochets in space, the space between the 2 clusters of 3 double crochets, skip 3, and then repeat from the asterisk. That's not going to make a whole lot of sense the first time you work this because there's not going to be anything to repeat. The first time we work through the pattern, we're only going to have 1 space between the sets of 3 double crochets between our corners. So because this is the row or the round that we're repeating, when we work it in round 4, it's going to make more sense. And then when I demonstrate it for what we're doing for round 5, when I just verbally show you how you're going to work round 5, it's going to make more sense. Just know that when you work through round 3 the first time, you're not actually going to be repeating this because you only have 1 space between the corners where you're working in the chain 2 space. So just a quick note on that. Okay, so to begin round 3, we begin again with our chainless starting double crochet. And then we're going to work 2 more double crochets in the same chain 2 space. 1, 2. So again, with our chainless starting double crochet, that counts as 3 double crochets. And then our repeat for this round, we're going to work chain 2, 3 more double crochets in the same space. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters. So each set of 3 is a cluster. So in that little space created between those 3 is where we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And then because we don't have any more spaces between the clusters and our next space is going to be the chain 2 space, we are going to work 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space. And that's the end of the repeat. So again, chain 2, 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space where you were just working. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3. Work 3 double crochets in the space between the 2 clusters. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3, and then we're back at a chain 2 space. So we work 3 double crochets. 2, 3. And then we do our repeat again. So chain 2, 3 double crochets in the same chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3. Work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3. We're back at a chain 2 space, so we work 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3. And then to finish out this round, we're going to chain 2, work 3 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space we were just working in. 2, 3. Skip 3. Work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters. 1, 2, 3. And then you're just going to slip stitch to the chainless starting double crochet from the beginning of the round. And then work a slip stitch in each of the next 2 stitches. I did not get into the, let me back up here. I didn't get into the chainless starting double crochet. Let me try that one more time. Sorry, so slip stitch to the chainless starting double crochet, and then a slip stitch in each of the next 2 stitches. And then final slip stitch goes in the chain 2 space. So if you look at your round 3, you've got the corners where you've got 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And then you have the side where you just work the 3 double crochets in between the 2 sets from the previous round each time. So now that we're getting to round 4, which is a repeat of round 3, the repeat, see if I can put this up here next to, so you can kind of see. Sorry, I know it's kind of far away. The repeat is going to make more sense. Let me see if I can zoom in just a tiny bit. So this repeat, so we're going to start in this corner again and do another set of start with the chainless starting double crochet and then 3 double crochets in this corner, and then chain 2. We're going to do 3 more double crochets in the corner. So we're going to kind of make another corner that looks like this in this next round. But then when we get to, after we do the 3 double crochets in the same chain 2 space at the beginning in this corner, and skip 3, then we work the 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters, and then we skip 3 and we repeat 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters, because now we have 2 spaces of between we'd have get my stuff out of the way here. We have a space between these 2 clusters here, and then we have another space between these 2 clusters before we get to another corner. So now we can work that repeat that we didn't have anything to repeat the first time we worked this. So we're basically doing the same thing we just did, doing a set of 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets in each corner, and then working a set of 3 double crochets in each of the spaces between the corners all the way around. So I hope that made sense. Zoom back out so that you can see what I'm doing. I feel like I've been a little low on the camera, so I'll try to pull myself up a little bit here. All right, so round 4, which is a repeat of round 3, we begin with our chainless starting double crochet into the chain 2 space, and then 2 more double crochets in the same space, 2. So with the chainless starting double crochet, that equals 3. Then we begin our repeat, which starts with chain 2, and then 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space between the cluster, 1, 2, 3. Skip 3, so these 3, and then work 3 more double crochets in the space between the cluster. So this is just that between the asterisk repeat, 2, 3, and we do that until we get to the next chain 2 space. We skip 3, and then we have a chain 2 space. So this is a corner where we work 3 double crochets, 2, 3, and that's technically the end of our repeat. So to finish the corner, we start the new repeat, which is chain 2, 3 more double crochets in the same space, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the next space between the clusters, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to skip 3 and work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters again, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to skip 3, and now we're back at a corner and a chain 2 space. So we're going to work 3 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, and that's the end of the repeat again. So to start a new repeat, we chain 2, we work 3 more double crochets in the chain 2 space we were just working in. 2, 3, skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space between the cluster. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, we're at another chain 2 space, so we work 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, and then to finish out our round, we're going to chain 2, work 3 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space we were just working in. 2, 3, skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the next space between the clusters. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters. 1, 2, 3, and then we're at the end, so we're going to work a slip stitch to the chainless starting double crochet from the beginning of the round, and then slip stitch into each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then a final slip stitch in that chain 2 space. And that is the end of round 4. So at this point, to check your gauge, you can spread out your piece and get your ruler, and then you should just should be 4 inches from side to side basically, which maybe a little bit short, but since this is nice and flexible, I'm going to call that good enough and move on. So rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8, so the next 4 rounds, are going to be worked the exact same way that we just worked round 4, which is to begin with the chainless starting double crochet and 2 more double crochets in the chain 2 space, chain 2, work 3 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space, and then skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space between the clusters, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space between the cluster, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space between the cluster. And so for each round, you're going to have more spaces. So if you remember when we worked round 3 the first time, we only had 1 space between the clusters before we were back at a corner. And then the last round, we had 2 spaces between the clusters before we were back at a corner. And now we're going to have 3 spaces between the clusters before we're back at a corner. So it's just going to keep growing from there. So for round 5, we'll have 3 spaces. For round 6, we'll have 4 spaces. For round 7, and this is on each side, round 7, we'll have 5 spaces. And round 8, we'll have 6 spaces. So you'll have 6 sets. When you get to round 8, you'll have 6 sets of 3 double crochets in each space before you get to the corners. And when you work the corners, you're just doing, with the exception of the beginning, you're doing 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And you're just doing that all the way around. And then when you get to the end, you're just working in the spaces between the clusters, the sets of 3 double crochet, until you get to the last space, and then you're just doing a slip stitch to the beginning of round. For that, slip stitch into the chainless starting double crochet at the beginning of the round, and then slip stitching into the next 2 stitches and all the way over to the corner where the chain 2 space is. So that final slip stitch just goes in the chain 2, and you're just doing that on every round up through round 8. So I'm going to cut the video off here, and then you can pick it up at round 9. Okay, so here's what you should have when you have finished round 8. I've got my little, I've got my hooks stuck down the corners of the piece just to kind of give you a better overview of how the the sets of 3 double crochets work as you work up through. So this would be from round 3, and then round 4 you've got 2 sets, and round 5 you've got 3 sets, and round 6 you've got 4 sets, round 7 you've got 5 sets, and round 8 you have 6 sets, and that's between each corner all the way around. So at this point in the project, we're switching from working in the round to working across 2 sides and then turning and coming back across those same 2 sides. So from here, the piece is going to grow out this way and out this way. It's just going to grow in those 2 directions. And so our corner that are this side of the piece is going to be our bottom corner, or top corner, depending on, but bottom right, top left, or whatever. However you end up setting your piece in your project, this is going to be one edge, and then, or well, the 2 edges, but this edge is going to extend up this way, this edge is going to extend up this way, and so this is going to be the corner. I hope that made sense. I feel like I was just rambling. So to begin row 9, so at this point we're switching from rounds to rows. So we go from round 8 to row 9, and row because we're just working across 2 sides as opposed to all the way around. We're going to start row 9 with a chain 1, and then work a single crochet in the chain 2 space. Then we are going to skip 1 and work 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then our repeat is to work a single crochet in the space. So this is always the space. When it tells you to do it in the space, you're working in the space between the sets of 3 double crochets. And so instead of working in the stitch, this is technically the top of that first double crochet, you're actually working underneath that in that entire space. So you're going to work a single crochet in that space, and then skip 1. So that just means we're not working into the top of this double crochet right here. We just worked in the space. We're not working in the top of that stitch. And then we're working in each of the next 2, a single crochet in each one. So single crochet, and then repeat that single crochet in the space, skip 1. So we're just skipping the top of this stitch, and then single crochet, and we're just going to do this until we get to the corner. So single crochet in the space, skip the top of that stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top of that stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top of that stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top of the stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the next one, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and now we are at the corner where we have our chain 2 space. So before I work the corner, what I did want to point out is the reason that we're working instead of just working across a single crochet in each stitch, which technically we have enough, we're working the same number of single crochets across, but the reason that we're doing it in that space instead of just in the top of each stitch is to pull up, so that this, we're basically pulling up the bottom of that stitch. Let me back out here a little bit. So you can see this stitch right here, the first double crochet of each set, has 3 loops that run horizontally. And the horizontal stitches, if we went underneath the top 2 to make a stitch, that bottom one is going to hang down into the space. And so that's the reason that we're working the single crochet in the space, is that we're doing that to pull that loop up out of the way so that it opens up that space so that we continue to get the motif of what we're doing here. If we didn't work into the space, if we just worked into the top of that stitch, it wouldn't look the same. All right, so get to my corner again. All right, and then in the corner, we're going to work, and so that's in this chain 2 space of the corner, we're going to work 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then a chain 2, and then 3 more single crochets in the same space, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to skip 1. So that's the stitch that's right here. It's technically underneath these single crochets that we just made. We're skipping that one, and then we're working in the next, a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then we're going to continue with that repeat. So we're going to single crochet in the space, skip the top of the stitch that's right next to the space, and then work a single crochet in each of the next 2. 2. Single crochet in the space, skip the top of that stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. 2, single crochet in the space, skip the top of the next stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top of that stitch, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the space, skip the top, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet in the top, and then when we come down here to the end, we're going to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So we skip that one that's next to the space, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then in this chain 2 space here, we are going to do a a single crochet in that chain 2 space, and then chain 1 and turn. And so now we're working back across the stitches that we just made, the single crochets that we just made. So round 10, we are going to single crochet in each stitch across to the chain 2 space that we have here in this corner, which is going to be kind of tight. So don't miss it. We're just going to single crochet in each stitch across all the way to the chain 2 space. If you are counting your single crochets from the end, you should have a total of 27 single crochets on the side before you get to the chain 2 space. All right, and when you get to the chain 2 space, you're going to work into that chain 2, 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 more single crochets. Then you're just going to continue to single crochet in each stitch across to the end. So as I said, so after you work in the corner, those 2 single crochets in the chain 2 space, you should have a total remaining of 27. So I'll count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. And that's the end of row 10. So now you should have a piece, sorry, it's going to curl a little bit, so hopefully you can still see it, piece that looks like this. So you've got your square with the sets of triple crochets, and then you should have 2 rows of single crochet as kind of a border on 2 sides. And yes, the edge where you began, row 9, is going to kind of pull over like this, and again, that's going to block out. Okay, so that's going to stretch out and block correctly. Row 11. So again, we're just working these 2 edges that we just worked. So row 11, we begin with a chainless starting double crochet. And then we're going to work 2 more double crochets in that same stitch. 1, 2. So with the chainless starting double crochet, that's going to count as 3 double crochets in that first stitch. Then we're going to skip 2 and work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. So that 3 double crochets in that next stitch is the beginning of the repeat. Then we're going to skip 2, and we're just going to repeat that. We're going to do the skip 2 and work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. Skip 2, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the stitch after that. 1, oops, sorry, I caught my yarn there. Back out a little bit. So this is 3 double crochets that you already did. Skip 2, and then 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. Skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. Skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. So when we do that, there should be 1 stitch before the chain 2 space. So we end the repeat with just those 3 double crochets here. And then in the chain 2 space, we're going to work 2 double crochets. 1, 2, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space. 1, 2. And then we turn the corner here, and then on the next side, after the chain space, we're going to skip 1 and then work 3 double crochets into the next stitch. 1, 2, 3. So again, those 3 double crochets that we just worked are the beginning of the repeat. So the repeat starts with the 3 double crochets, and then we skip 2, and then we work 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, repeat, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, the repeat, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, repeat, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, skip 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, and then skip 2. And to end the row, you should be able to do one more set of 3 double crochets in the last stitch. So 1, 2, 3. And that is the end of row 11. So you have above your single crochet rows these sets of 3 double crochets again. So at the end of row 11, you're just going to turn and work back across the wrong side. Okay, row 12. So row 12, we begin with a chain 3, and then we're going to skip 3, so these 3 double crochets at the end, and then we're going to work the repeat, which is 3 double crochets in the space. So again, we're working in that entire space around between the sets of 3 double crochets. 2, 3, then we're going to skip 3 and just do that again. 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, and you're just going to continue this all the way until you get to the chain space in the corner. Sorry, I'm going to check and make sure it's the chain 2 space in the corner. So you're just going to continue skipping 3 and then working 3 double crochets all the way until you get to the space before. So you have the chain 2 space in the corner, and then you're going to work that until you get to this space before that. So just keep going. Skip 3, 3 double crochets. Then, so you skip 3, you've got the space before the chain 2 space, so you're going to work 3 double crochets in that one. Then you're going to skip 2, and then in the chain 2 space, you're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, 3. Then on the other side, you're going to skip 2, and then you're going to begin the repeat again, which is 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3. Do that again, 3 double crochets in the space. 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets in the space. 2, 3, skip 3, and just continue that all the way until close to the end. Then this space before the end, you're going to do 3 double crochets in there. 2, 3. Then you are going to skip 2, and then you are going to work a double crochet in the very last stitch, which is the chainless starting double crochet from the beginning of the previous round. Like that. So on this row, if you turn it, on this row at the beginning of the row, you're going to have the 1 double crochet and then a space, and then at the end of the row, you're going to have a space and then the 1 double crochet at the very end. So technically the one at the beginning is the chain 3, but it counts as a double crochet. So that is the end of row 12. So row 13 is going to be worked much like row 11 was. So we begin row 13 with a chainless starting double crochet. And this starting double crochet, and instead of like we did in row 11 into the stitch, we're actually doing that into that space. Okay, so again, it's just going to pull up the bottom loop in there. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochets in that same space. 1, 2. So you'll have a total at the beginning of 3 double crochets. Then we're going to skip 3 and work 3 double crochets in the space. And we're going to do that all the way down again until we get to the corner. So we're just going to skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space. Skip 3, work 3 double crochets in the space, and you're just going to continue doing this all the way down to the corner of where you have the chain 2 space. When you get to the corner, you're going to skip 3, and then in the chain 2 space, you're going to work 3 double crochets. 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets in the same space. 1, 2, 3. And then on this next side, you're going to do the same thing where you skip 3 and then work 3 double crochets into each space. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3, work 3 double crochets, 2, 3, and you're just going to continue that all the way down until you get to the last space. So when you get to the end of the row, you should have 3 more double crochets that you're going to skip, and then into this chain space from the previous row, you're going to work 3 more double crochets. And that's the end of row 13. So then you turn to begin row 14. All right, row 14 begins with a chain 3, and then you're going to skip 3 stitches, and then we're just going to repeat our previous motif, which is working 3 double crochets into the space, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets into the space, 1, 2, 3, skip 3, 3 double crochets into the space, 2, 3, and you're going to work that all the way until you get back to the corner chain 2 space. So just keep working those 3 double crochets into the spaces and then skipping the clusters of 3. So after you work the last set of 3 double crochets into the space before you get to the chain 2 space, you're just going to skip those next 3, and then into the chain 2 space, you're going to work 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets in that same space, 2, 3, and then you've turned the corner, so you're just going to continue working, skipping 3, and then working 3 double crochets into each space. And you're going to do that all the way down to the end. So when you get to the end, you're going to work the 3 double crochets in that last space. And then you're going to skip 2, and then you're going to work 1 double crochet into the beginning, that chainless starting double crochet from the previous round. You're going to work a double crochet into that last stitch. Oh wait, no. One more thing. Chain 1 and turn. And that is the end of row 14. Row 15, we begin with a single crochet in the space. And then we're going to be working a single crochet. Oops, didn't get through there. Okay, single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to skip this stitch that is closest to the space on the right side. Skip that stitch and then single crochet into the space. So do that again. 2 single crochets. Skip this one, single crochet into the space. 2 single crochets, 1, 2, skip the next one, single crochet into the space. And you're just going to continue that until you get to the chain 2 space. So again, 2 single crochets, skip the next one, single crochet into the space, single crochet into each of the next 2, skip the next one, single crochet into the space, single crochet into each of the next 2, skip the next one, single crochet into the space, 1, 2, skip, space, 1, 2, skip, space, 1, 2, skip, space. So keep in mind we're working the same number of single crochets as we have stitches. We're just skipping the one that has the top of the stitch that comes over the top of that space and working into the space instead, so that it helps pull up that loop. So this final one, 1, 2, and then we're going to skip the space that's directly before the chain 2 space, and then into the chain 2 space we're going to work 3 single crochets, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 more single crochets into that same space. 1, 2, 3. At the end of that, we're going to work a single crochet into each of the next 2. 1, 2, and then we're going to skip one and single crochet into the space, and then we're going to do that repeat again all the way down this side. So we single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, skip that next one and single crochet into the space instead. Single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, skip the next one and single crochet into the space instead. 1, 2, skip that one into the space, 1, 2, skip that one into the space, 1, 2, skip into the space, 1, 2, skip into the space, 1, 2, skip into the space, all the way down to the end. When you get to the very end, you're going to, so you did the space before the end, and then you did single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. You're going to skip this last one, and then work a single crochet into that chain space at the end. Then you chain 1 and turn. And at this point, you're going to go back to row 10 and just repeat it. You're just going to have more stitches than you had when you worked row 10 the first time. So at this point, rather than working through the remainder of the pattern, which is, so beginning with row 16, you're repeating rows 10 through 14, and then jumping to rows 21 and 22. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about where you are. I've tried to boost the camera up a little bit. Hopefully I don't shake it too much. It just gets really wobbly when it's up this high. So we're basically doing what we just did. So we made this set. We have the single crochet rows on two sides, and then we have the 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of the double crochets that are stacked kind of between each other with the bigger corners. So you can actually, when you if you want, the counts are going to be different, but if you want, you can jump back to row 10 to work row 16. And so for row 16, your stitch counts, you're going to have 39 single crochets across, and you're just working the single crochets. Sorry, let me pull you're just working the single crochets in each stitch across until you get to the corner. And so you'll have 39, and then when you get to the corner, you'll have 2 single crochets, and then a chain 2 and 2 single crochets in the corner, and then 39 more single crochets across the other side. So you'll have a total of 41 single crochets on either side of the chain 2 that's in the corner, or a total of 82 single crochets across those two edges in entirety. And then you're going to, for row 17, you'll repeat row 11. And row 11 is just, you're going to be working the same repeat. So you could just jump to the row 11 part of the video, which is timestamped below, and work these double crochets across to the corner. You're just going to have a total of 88 double crochets throughout this set, mostly 3s, but then the 2 that are in the corner, instead of in the corner, you do the 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Then you would work row 12, which is just more of the sets of 3 double crochets all the way around. So you can jump to the row 12 video to work row, was that 18? 16, 17, yeah. So row 18, you're going to have a total of 92 double crochets in row 18. And then row 19, you can jump to row 13, the row 13 video, where you're going to work 96 double crochets total. And then to work row 20, you can jump to the row 14 video, where again, you're just working the double crochets on the 2 edges for a total of 98 double crochets. When you get to the end of row 20, you're going to jump, you're going to skip row 15, you're repeating rows 10 through 14, and then you're going to jump to row 21. And row 21 is just, we're working the single crochets across what we have, and you're just working the single crochets in the space again. So row 21 is very similar to row 15, where you're working the single crochet in the space, and then 2 single crochets, and then you skip 1. So this is just like row 15, what we already did. And the only difference between row 15 and row 21 is that you're working a smaller amount in the corner. So when you get to the corner, instead of working 3 single crochets, a chain 2, 3 single crochets, you're just working 2 single crochets, a chain 2, say 2 single crochets. But otherwise, you're working your single crochets in row 21 exactly the same way you work them in row 15. And then row 22, you're just jumping back to row 10 again. And so the stitch counts are already in the pattern for rows 21 and 22, so I won't give you those, but you can jump back and work row 10 one more time with the video if you want to work row 22. So I know it's a little truncated. It takes me forever to work across a row, and it doesn't seem like this pattern is fairly simple. Really the only thing that's anything beyond like a very basic beginning granny square is just that you're stopping working in the round and moving to working on just 2 sides partway through. Other than that, it's really simple to follow, so you should be able to figure out what I didn't actually show you. And if you have any questions, or if there is something you actually do want to see, I absolutely don't mind making a video for it. I don't want to put too much in the video and make people bored out of their minds. So if there's something that you need, feel free to ask, and I'd be happy to show that. So I hope that helps, and happy clue 7ing.